Hello there, and welcome back to the Fighting Pit patrons. This is the Knights of the Nerd Republic versus series made exclusively for our patrons, and then sometimes when we can't record an episode for the main feed, but mostly for the patrons.
For you guys.
80% for the patrons.
80%.
Also for our own convenience. Sometimes it'd be like that, but mostly for you guys, but sometimes for the others. We have our June matchup. With this, we are officially caught back up with our workload of versus matchups. And we have a fun one for you guys, one I'm excited for, one that, we had another week where we kind of made Spencer do a little bit of extra legwork than was maybe fair, but I think we have a good episode for you guys. I think we got a fun one.
I do. I think this is an episode that we can affectionately call the duel of the unfinished Padawans.
Something like that.
The duel of the Padawans with unfinished training.
The duel of Padawans who ascended to knighthood in a very, very tumultuous time for their order.
None of which roll off the tongue, but that's the theme for today's matchup.
Yeah.
So that's the best.
Duel
we
of
got.
the Purge Padawans.
Duel of the Purge Padawans is pretty good. That's pretty concise.
Thank you.
It. So
would you like to explain what we do here?
I would love to. For those of you who are joining us for yet another round, we thank you very much for your continued patronage at the $5 tier. If you're new with us, if this is your first versus match up, then we thank you for your patronage. And I'm going to explain just briefly how we do this. So there will be 5 categories. We will introduce each character and then go into those 5 categories. We will break down each contender based on what their skills are, what their attributes are for each category, and then give a soft edge at the end of each category. Those categories are physical attributes, martial arts ability, force ability, weapons and equipment, and tactics and mindset. Tacitus.
Taciturn and the tactics and mindset.
Tacitus, the Roman historian. So anyway, those are the 5 categories. And
Joel's on a hot microphone and on the couch and laughed at Tacitus and then went, "Oh no, they can hear me," and very meekly, gingerly pushed the mic 3 back to where it's supposed to go.
So there will be 5 categories and then a Roman historian for the 6th. And then there will be a theoretical fight breakdown. So after we've given a soft edge to one or the other for each of the 5 categories, then we will select an arena at random from a predetermined list from Season 2. And then we will just, okay, these 2 characters are dropped in this place, in this arena, and they've got to go toe-to-toe. How would this go down? Who would come out on top? That's the basics. So if there are no other housekeeping items, then I would invite Jared to introduce our first contender.
For those of you at home, a wheel popped off of my chair, and we don't have the time to repair it. And just the way my chair got turned around, it's the front wheel. And I am nothing if not terrified for this entire episode.
You're afraid you're just going to
I'm
slide
afraid
straight
I'm going to jaw myself. If this goes forward, I'm facing the laptop, jaw in the table, down.
You're going to be fine. You'll be fine.
I know, but how many? I've gone down 3 times on air over the course of my life, and I don't want a 4th. Oh, rock your shit, Simpson.
Hey, at least I still have all my wheels, all right? So, without further ado, any further distractions?
I paid for the chair that your ass is in. He's in here. The disrespect.
You got
nobody
in these streets.
Nobody, not a single soul in these streets. Ever. Not ever, not once. I hope you fall.
Thank you.
Count Kestis was a young Padawan when Order 66 came down. In orbit of the world Braca, Cal and his master, Jero T'Pol, were ambushed by their clone troopers. T'Pol fought bravely, but was eventually gunned down by the clones protecting Cal, a sacrifice the young Jedi viewed as him causing his own master's death. Cal spent time laying low on Braca as a scrapper until he was exposed as a Jedi. Kestis narrowly escaped the second sister with the help of ex-Jedi Seer Junda and her conscripted pilot Greaves. The crew of the Stinger Mantis would adventure across the galaxy to acquire a holocron holding a list of Force-sensitive children with hopes of restoring the Jedi Order. Cal would ultimately face off against the second sister a number of times, eventually discovering her true identity, Trilla Sundari, Seer's fallen Padawan. After Cal and Trilla's final duel in the Fortress Inquisitorius, Cal and Seer barely managed to fend off Darth Vader and escape with their lives and the holocron. Cal Kestis' fate remains unknown. And his opponent. I realized you were waiting for me to.
Thank you. I was about to do it for myself, and I was just like, dang it. Come on. Born on Lothal to freedom-preaching parents in 19 BBY, Ezra Bridger was quickly orphaned when his parents were imprisoned and later killed by the Empire for their seditious persuasions. In his early teen years, he encountered the crew of the Ghost and eventually was accepted as a member of their crew. Kanan Jarrus, who himself was orphaned when his master was killed during the Jedi Purge, took it upon himself to train Bridger as a Jedi to the best of his ability. Bridger took part in a number of rebel smuggling, infiltration, and disruption missions, crossing blades with the Inquisitors, helping his crewmate Sabine Wren reclaim her status on Mandalore, and even spending time in possession of the Sith holocron. Due to this unconventional training at the hands of Kanan Jarrus, who himself never completed his training, and the influence of the Grey Jedi Ahsoka Tano and the former Sith Lord Maul, Bridger's journey in the Force was marked by both the light and the dark. After discovering the world between worlds, Bridger saved the life of Ahsoka Tano from Darth Vader by going back in time. During the final encounter that the crew of the Ghost had with Grand Admiral Thrawn, Ezra and Thrawn were both transported through hyperspace to an unknown location in the uncharted regions. Sabine Wren and Ahsoka Tano eventually left on a mission to find Ezra and bring him home.
So you put Grey Jedi in there to piss me off.
Yes. Is it because I spelled it with an E instead of an A?
No, because we've explicitly had the conversation where I've said the term Grey Jedi has like only one purpose at this point, and it's to describe Ahsoka. Because like this again, like Grey Jedi and Dark Jedi, in my opinion, like the only purpose they serve is to be like categories for people who don't fall into a category. Like a Grey Jedi, like I don't buy into like the dark side and the light side all at once, because like the dark side comes at a cost. Narratively, that's the whole point of the dark side of the Force. A Grey Jedi, in my opinion, is just a light sider who is not a capital J Jedi.
Chaotic good.
Yeah. And a dark Jedi is a dark sider who is not out and out a Sith Lord. Like a Kylo Ren or an Asajj Ventress. But he knows I always get my my undergutchies in a bunch.
His knickers in a twist.
I don't like that phrase.
Why?
It just feels gross.
Knickers?
Never liked it. I don't like it.
You
In
don't
a
like
twist.
knickers in a twist.
It sounds...
I just picture the legs of your pants like spinning around each other until they get all bunched up, which is kind of like getting your gutchies in a bunch, I guess. Ew, I'd rather have knickers in a twist than gutchies in a bunch. Hey, unbunch your gutchies.
I will, for the sake of this episode and our patrons, I will ungutch
your bunchies. Jared will ungutch his bunchies, everybody.
Oh man, I missed the idea of a soundboard.
Oh, isn't this great?
Oh yeah, it's a ungunch my bunchies. So physical attributes for Cal Kestis. He clocks in at a 5'10", slender build. He's built like a rock climber. In that
surprisingly makes perfect sense.
Yeah, he's not a brick shithouse, like a Vader or a Darth Bane. But he's also not quite like the I would almost describe as like an MMA fighter type build that you'd see on like an Anakin almost. But like, Cal
Trim.
Kestis is out of any Jedi the one who's most likely to whoop ass at American Ninja Warrior. That said, he's not weak by any means, but he's not he's not taking like Obi-Wan Kenobi levels of punishment and getting back up either. However, he is rather agile. And Ezra Bridger. Oh, also beautiful red locks.
Nice. So Ezra Bridger is a human male from Lothal. He is 5'4", so he's a short boy, according to
#Short King.
According to Wikipedia. He's got an average build for a little boy, and he used to have nice flow, but did a thing and got a buzz cut, which is like the inverse of my hairstyle journey as a person.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of buzz cuts from like 5 years old until 15 years old because they were easy and they were kind of nice to feel for a couple weeks. They were just nice and fuzzy. You never had to worry about your hair looking good.
Can I say some shit to you?
You may.
That
Yes.
I mean like completely in earnest and like lovingly.
Yes, you may.
I'm so glad you've outgrown buzz cuts. Not that you ever necessarily looked bad with them, but this like clean cut shit, much better look on you.
Well, thank you. I need a haircut bad. It's way too long. I don't like my hair.
Oh my
this long.
god, I can't believe you look at how your hair looks right now and call it.
During the other episode that we were recording, when we were sweating in here, I was watching from that little end of your hair there, just drips, just slowly coming from your hair.
Which apparently we can run the air conditioner and it not be that loud in here.
We
Please
discovered this.
It's running right now.
Forgive
clue.
us if you can.
If you can hear it.
If it's obnoxious, then we're really
Roast
sorry.
us.
This is
And-
the guinea pig episode.
It is.
for
Yes.
having it run completely through.
Because we love you guys.
But we think
We do.
StreamYard does an amazing job at getting rid of noise pollution.
Yeah.
In which case,
In which case, it should filter Joel out entirely.
Ooh, that was mean for no reason.
That was a sick burn, and you know it.
I would stand up and leave right now,
Let me get
if
you-
only.
Let me get you some aloe. You're gonna need it for that burn.
Okay, there we go.
Noise pollution. Yeah, you shake on it. You know it was good. All right.
I feel like you would be more respectful for you to stand up and shake his hand.
It would be. You're absolutely right. So I am inclined to give Cal the edge for physical attributes because it's obvious he's taller and he's stronger.
I don't know about stronger. I feel like they're probably clocking in around the same spot. I feel like upper body strength
Ezra
on some level he hasn't beat because of all of like the parkour that
Ezra
Cal
has
does.
like no visible evidence of muscle.
that's fair.
He's got a Spencer build, which is like skinny with a little bit of functional strength. Like if you need me to help move a couch, I'm your guy. But like I'm small. I'm not muscly.
I'm small. Yeah, no, but I do agree with you. I think Cal gets like a narrow edge if for no other reason than he has the height advantage over Ezra. He's like what, half a foot
And he's
taller than
strong.
him?
Yeah, he's like 6 inches taller. That's significant. That is what you call in the statistics world a significant digit.
The significant digit. Well,
A significant.
like I said, I
statistic.
don't think that the physical edge is going to be necessarily a deciding factor
I
here.
don't think so.
But it is. There's a clear edge, but it's not by a long shot either.
right, you are.
Spencer, martial arts ability for Mr. Bridger.
Right. So Ezra Bridger has an interesting journey. He started out as a trainee of Form 4 after studying some instructional material from Anakin Skywalker on the Jedi Holocron. And then after the death of his master, Kanan Jarrus, he started to incorporate Forms 3 and 5 into his fighting style after Kanan's primary forms. He's also displayed some skill with Jar-Kai, wielding both his own green lightsaber and the dark saber at the same time, just like his master had displayed skill with Jar-Kai, wielding both his and Ezra's first lightsaber when fighting the Grand Inquisitor. So he's got 3 forms that he's reasonably proficient in. I would not call him anywhere close to having mastery of any of them, but he has a working and functional knowledge of forms 4, 3, and 5. Or 3, 4, and 5, if you want to be numerically pure.
This is like absolutely laying the groundwork for like, and down the road. This is another disclaimer about when we're recording stuff. This is on June 7th. So down the road, whenever we see Ahsoka in her show, and if we get a live action Ezra, who's a, savant of a duelist and a Force god. We weren't covering that version of Ezra at this time.
No.
You didn't. That version of Ezra didn't exist at this time, but the groundwork for him to be like a martial arts hurricane is absolutely there. I think that cocktail of Surisu Ataru and Chien is that brings a lot to the table. That's the groundwork.
It checks all of the boxes that you want to have checked.
So
defense, offense, mobility. He's got a lot of options.
Yeah, give him some time and like being like as like a proper fully realized Jedi. I think he's on the path to being one of the greats.
Jared,
yes.
What about Cal?
Like Ezra, he has a interesting training history. We're going to be getting into a little bit of conjecture here, but and this we're going to be dipping into his Force abilities a little bit on this one. But Cal has an inherent talent and affinity for Force psychometry, which means that he can relive the experiences of the weapons that he or the items that he touches. For example, whenever he ends up grabbing a hold of the second sister's saber staff, he ends up living and experiencing the memories of the second sister and the trauma she went with being turned into an Inquisitor. I think, despite Cal's training being incomplete, the time he spends as the owner of half of Jaro Tapal's saber staff left him with like the faint memories and like inherent ability to use a saber staff, and that explains some of his abilities and talent with that. Now, in the same way that due to the Force bond and dyad that Rey and Ben Solo share, we see that Rey mimics a lot of Kylo Ren's lightsaber sequences, and I think that that's more on a subconscious level. And I think we're looking at something similar with Cal here. I don't think that Cal is necessarily able to like recall entire like sequences and drills that Jaro Tapal may have run when he was still alive. But like, there's just like this faint memory of like, this feels natural to me because of his exposure to Jaro Tapal's weapon. So in the same way that we talked about like for the last episode, with Galen Merrick's like, do I necessarily think he can beat Obi-Wan Kenobi because he fought the Obi-Wan Kenobi training module? No. But this is stupid, but follow me. You know how people make the joke about like with LaCroix and White Claws and like seltzers that when you're drinking some form of like fruity seltzer, it feels like you're drinking like carbonated water and someone is screaming the name of a fruit in the other room.
No, but I know exactly what you mean because I've had one and I was like, this is peach? I don't get peach.
That's how Cal uses a saber staff. He's swinging a saber staff while someone in the other room goes, Jaro Tapal! Like, that's how that works. That's how his style of dual blade saber staff fencing comes into play. So again, it's like the echo of Jaro Tapal. Not quite with the same level of proficiency as a full-fledged Jedi master, but he's able to mimic the same technique. So that said, Cal, being the not completely trained Padawan he was, shows at the very least a talent with Shi-Cho. Most of his single blade combat, there's a lot of like big broad strikes. There is a little bit of power behind them, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little Gemso in there, or at least the beginnings of it. But for the most part, I feel like he's more rooted in a Shi-Cho based fighting style. When he's using one blade, he focuses on strength based offenses. He's kind of got like again, comparing to other fighters we've talked about, he kind of has that Exar Kun, Anakin Skywalker thing going on, where he's strong and fast and in that order.
Yeah.
Like he's stronger than he is fast, but he's not.
He is both.
But he is not lumbering towards you like a Vader either.
Yeah.
However, like Kun, when he kicks on that second blade, he is more of a speed fighter, and he's more trying to overwhelm you by sheer volume of strikes. Again, this is mostly based off of the direction the game kind of tries to make you go in with how you enter combat. It seems as though he's not bad at parrying away strikes. However, it seems as though he's more inclined to try to like jump around or over an opponent. Part of that is based off of his fight against the Ninth Sister. Again, in that cutscene where we see him do a little bit of dodging, he blocks her head on, but he's able to end the fight when he's able to jump around and then over her to take off her hand and then cut her up the back. Again, because you were able to in game, I think it is safe to assume that there is some ease in which he's able to switch between a standard lightsaber, his saber staff, and then also split the two ends of his lightsaber apart into twin sabers. As far as notable kills, feats, and victories go, again, he with time was able to defeat the Second Sister. He defeated the Ninth Sister, and he also went toe-to-toe with Terran Malicos, the Dark Jedi, who had basically taken control of Dathomir. He's fought his way through huge groups of stormtroopers, creatures, droids, scoundrels, etc., and survived his encounter with Darth Vader, albeit very narrowly.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, whenever I was looking through for notable kills, victories, and feats, Ezra hasn't really had any. He just never survived a fight. He's just survived fights with some very dangerous people. Again, also mostly just by the grace of happenstance and like Darth Vader being distracted or, like pushed
He's
away.
He's a very lucky child that Darth Vader had much bigger fish to fry that day.
He's a lucky ducky. In fact, the only one that I can think of right now is that like scary lizard monkey, Rook. Was that his name?
Yeah, he's fought Rook a few times.
Thrawn's personal assassin.
Yeah, he's handled Rook. Ezra has like the issue with Ezra, not necessarily issue, but like his biggest hang up here is that he did not get to have his he never gets to really engage an opposing Force user after he hits his stride. Like once we get to that Ezra Bridger, with the buzz cut and the green lightsaber and everything, we're like, I think he's a much more capable Jedi by that point. And, by the end of the show, by the end of Rebels and by the end that Kanan's gone, I feel comfortable calling him a Jedi Knight. We never get to see him, get a rematch with any Inquisitors, get a rematch with Vader, although I think that would also still be a death sentence for him.
Yeah. I think his biggest disadvantage in racking up achievements is that literally every Force user still in existence is better than him.
Yeah.
At that point.
How can they not? Because they're the people who survived the Purge.
They were either Vader or people trained by Vader. And those are not people that you want to cross blades with if you're still a Padawan. You have to have at least knight status, actual knight status to have a chance.
And personally, this is why I think this is such an interesting fight, because even though Cal has these three big wins here of defeating the Second Sister, defeating the Ninth Sister and defeating Terran Malicos. Granted, I will say he beat Malicos with help from Marin, the Ninth Sister witch, but he still held his own against Malicos, who was a fully fledged Jedi Master. Second Sister, Ninth Sister are Padawans and Knights before their turn to the dark side, respectively. And that said, the Second Sister is more of a threat by that point. But a lot of Cal's wins, his biggest win against the Second Sister when they fight in the Fortress Inquisitorius, which here's hoping that's not the arena that gets chosen today. Didn't mean to give a home field advantage, or at least the place where he's fought before.
Mm-hmm.
Cal, and this will be tactics and mindset. Cal only is able to beat the Second Sister after fighting her like 3 or 4 times. You know, the first time he like tries to go after her after she kills Proth, he swings his lightsaber at her. She guards it, parries him away, lifts him up with the Force, and tosses him. The second time they fight, still on Braca before he's able to escape, the way the fight is framed in the game is that like you're not trying to melt Trilla's health bar. Trilla's melting your health bar. The fight ends when you run out of health. So again, that like Cal can't beat her. By the time they fight for a third time on Zepho, Cal gives her a run for her money, but still he comes this close to dying. He like the only thing that saves his life is BD1 turning on that laser gate. Then they fight again on Bogano, and Cal, through use of Tricata tactics by doing a passing of the blades, turning his off, dodging her, and then he hits her with a well-placed force push. He puts Trilla on her ass, and then he tries to disarm her, and then we talked about him holding her lightsaber for the first time in the trip that sent him on. And then he gets to the Fortress Inquisitorius and is able to just straight up outfence her. That took a lot of engagements that ended very nearly in his death for him to be able to just straight up beat Trilla. And then right after he does that, Vader comes knocking. And again, he's within a hair of dying. Vader stabbed him through the stomach with his own lightsaber. Like, there's not a whole lot of like when you get stabbed with your own lightsaber in a fight,
something didn't just go wrong.
Yeah.
Something like catastrophic happened. Like
the wheels completely fell off the bus. So again, like I think that's what it makes this matchup interesting. Is that while on face value it feels like Cal is by far a superior fighter, he just fought the same person several times and got good at it. Ezra never had that luxury. However, Ezra does eventually become somebody who was, I don't know, like, you know, he was molded by it. You know, he was molded by the fact that like the only people at his disposal to train against are disciples of Darth Vader and Darth Vader.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like I have it here, and I'm not saying this is like you did a bad job with the stats, but like would add here survived Darth Vader. Like that's a feat unto itself.
Yeah.
Regardless of whatever circumstances gets you out of that situation, if you survived it, you kept yourself alive long enough for plot contrivance to get you the fuck out.
I'm putting that in. Survived Darth Vader. Yeah.
Like anybody who is not killed by Vader in an engagement with him, like I put that in the stat sheet. Like if you fought him and didn't die immediately, good job.
Yeah, it took him about 4 seconds to be disarmed and like one good swing away.
When they fought
death.
one-on-one, and again, like that's what I was saying, like he's lucky Vader had bigger fish to fry. Because Vader knew Ahsoka was there and he had to get the holocron. You know, I like otherwise Ezra's a dead man. However, he and Kanan did put up a good fight against Vader as a team, as best they can for a barely Jedi Knight and a Padawan. Spencer, how you feeling as how they stack up as martial artists against each other?
See, I'm trying to think who just has more sheer experience, but it's pretty even. Like, I think, again, I haven't played the Fallen Order game.
You've been shown a lot.
I've
yeah.
watched a good bit of cutscenes and stuff, but I don't know like exactly who all Cal fights. It sounds to me like he mostly fights the second sister.
It's
over
the second
and over
sister,
again.
the ninth sister, who's like, she's the big ugly one, and then Terran Malicos, who is a fallen Jedi who wields twin lightsabers.
So compare that to,
which I'm pretty sure we've watched all of those fights together.
I think we have. Compare that to Ezra, who's got like 4-ish Inquisitors under his belt, having at least crossed blades with at least once. He's got Vader. He survived. Now, granted, they're the same in that they both crossed blades with Vader and barely survived.
Yeah, Vader had both of them dead to rights, and the intervention of other people stopped their death.
So it's I want to say, because of the variety of usages for his lightsaber, I want to give it to Cal because he's got more options. I mean, that tends to be
here's what I will say
like,
with
go-to for a tiebreaker or for like roughly the same is if you have more options with it and you know how to use those options, then that by default makes you a more deadly fighter, unless you're talking like Cal with his several different kinds of lightsaber versus Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like if you're talking the same caliber, if one of them has a form or skill or just like sheer
their weapon
usage,
itself is different.
If they have a usage advantage, then that will go a long way.
So here's
granted, there's not much that Ezra hasn't come across.
Ezra can deal with a saber staff.
He can.
He's not going to be spooked by a saber staff.
And he's not going to be spooked by one blade. Oh wait, there's two. I mean, if he can handle a buzzsaw,
he's like, oh, okay, well, yours can't go, so I'm fine. So here's where I think Cal does get the edge. I think that, again, even though it is he's not exactly able to like replicate Jaro Tapal, that I think that echo does go a long way. You know, there is the options and combat element, and I think Cal, even though the nature of their experience is similar, and I think that if you put Ezra in a similar situation where he gets as many opportunities to learn how to take somebody on as Cal does against the second sister, he can probably replicate that against the seventh sister.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Whichever one's played by Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He can replicate that against them, or maybe even the Grand Inquisitor. Was I right? No.
Well, no, I just wanted to look up.
Yeah, ninth is Big Ugly.
Seventh.
I want to see if I'm right here.
Yee.
Let's go. I was right. But Cal has fought a more diverse breadth of fighter. Like, he's dealt with the second sister, who implements a fighting style very similar to the Grand Inquisitor. I would go so far as to almost say they are identical in the way that they fight, in that very, like, however the hell you manage to do Makashi with a saber staff, they do Makashi with a saber staff. Whereas the ninth sister uses the very brutish, heavy-handed fighting style that she is able to utilize, relies on the spinning nature of the Inquisitor lightsaber. And then Terran Malicos, who just uses 2 normal lightsabers, but to great effect, and uses that Jarkai offensive very aggressively. Or not, I honestly, it's more like the double-bladed 9-man training with how much he integrates his force abilities. So I feel like Cal is more prepared for a more diverse type of fighter. because even though he dealt with like 2 Inquisitors and then a fallen Jedi, in terms of fights that he won, or eventually was able to get the upper hand in, like he dealt with a more precision-based footwork fencer. He dealt with a power fighter and dealt with Malicos, who had that very nine-man type fighting style. I also think Ezra gets into a little bit of hairy territory. Now, again, I will not go so far as to say that Cal Kestis is a power fighter. However, there are certain moves that you're able to perform as Cal that are very heavy-handed, like overhead power strikes. And Ezra is shown to not be good against power fighters.
He's a little boy.
He's a little boy. And again, it's Vader, so like,
good luck anybody.
yeah, but like it takes Vader like one good swing and he puts Ezra on his ass. Do I think that because it's Vader, that is more likely to happen because Vader? Yes.
But
do I think an
principle
Anakin?
is
Do I
sound.
think an Anakin Skywalker, a Kylo Ren, an Exar Kun could probably replicate those results pretty handily?
yeah.
Also, yes. So I am leaning towards Cal. Again, this is a instance of clear edge, but not by a long shot. But there's clearly a winner here.
I agree. So moving right along to force ability. This one is going to be relatively short as far as the typical length of force ability, just because neither one of them have the
Especially
exposure.
after the year we've had
yeah
of doing, okay,
of force tycoons,
yeah.
just absolute like force tornadoes
Don't worry.
getting
The
whipped at each other.
October's gonna, or no, December. December is gonna be a hoot for force abilities.
The perfect storm. So again, this one's going to be pretty short, not because they're bad, but because they don't have the exposure to nor the training for sophisticated and like training intensive techniques. So it's going to be pretty basic. For instance, Ezra has a pretty strong natural connection to the Force. Like he recognized Kanan. He knew something was different about Kanan before they were formally introduced. Like he is able to communicate with creatures that do not speak basic or any language for that matter. He has just a pretty strong connection to the living force, which enables him to do enhanced jumps and acrobatics as part of his fighting style. And I'd say he has slightly above average telekinesis.
After that little number with the ATST, absolutely.
Yes. He's not a telekinetic powerhouse, but he, like, a force push from him is nothing to sneeze at. It's pretty respectable. Yeah, I want to say that's about it. Yeah, force pushes, grabbing objects, basic telekinesis. He's got pretty well handled. Could use some refinement. I think he's got the raw power
Absolutely.
to be
Absolutely.
way better than he is, but the refinement it comes little by little. And where he's at by the end of Rebels, he's got a very respectable force push that could put the uninitiated on their butts.
No, again, I think that's the thing with Ezra is he's very much somebody that I look forward to seeing more of in the future, because once he comes back and he's given the opportunity to be a fully fledged Jedi, again, I think he's a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he has the building blocks are here for somebody who could be feasibly on the level of like an Obi-Wan Kenobi. For Cal Kestis, as far as force abilities go, like I said, he has psychometry, which is just one of those gifts that he has as a force wielder. Nothing he can really do combatively with that, but like I said, that has kind of been my hypothesis as to why he's able to wield the saber staff as effectively as he can. So I did keep it listed here. He is gifted with a very, very, very diverse use of telekinesis, utilizing both force pushes and force pulls in combat, as well as the advanced force slow, which is an ability he was talented at as a youth. We see him under great distress while he and Jar Tapal are being hammered down on by their clone troopers, that he's able to reach out and basically hit all of the clones in the room with Force Slow. So it's an ability he's talented with. We see him use it sparingly against other Force wielders. It doesn't last as long against other Force wielders, obviously for boss fight purposes. That makes it too easy, but also because that's how it would work. But yeah, and also force-based physical augmentation. So, I want to say there's a thin advantage to Cal.
I want to say
just because he's able to just because he has that little extra sauce of being as force push pull and slow. That he has this really deftly kind of curated ability with the Force. That it kind of gives him a leg up. That again, it's abilities that neither of them have, or that the other one doesn't have. In the same way that in a if you're doing a Jedi and a Sith, more often than not, you're probably going to end up giving the Sith the Force-based edge because they typically end up having abilities like Force Lightning at their disposal that the other guy doesn't have. So in this instance, I think Cal has some tricks up his sleeve that Ezra doesn't. Now, the fact remains that him using Force Slow against Ezra is unlikely because that is going to be a hard ability to get off in a pitched lightsaber duel.
Not to mention the fact that its effects will be less and not last as long against another Force user.
Also, defensively, Cal does not have a lot going on telekinetically. I don't think it would take a lot from Ezra to be able to land a Force push. I think that this game this fight is going to feel very video gamey in that they're both going to just be able to freely land Force pushes on each other because the other one can't really defend against it. So that kind of breaks them even. So I think the only real advantage is Force Slow, but the likelihood of it being used is low.
Yeah. So it's a slim, more practically, in a practical sense, this will likely come out to a draw.
Yeah,
but
in a Force-only fight, slow is the deciding factor.
Yes, because it's just the kick that he needs, just a little bit.
For all intents and purposes, in practicality, in the way this fight will play out, they break even.
Indeed.
But if they are limited to their Force abilities, no swords, no fisticuffs, that's how that shakes out. Speaking of their swords, Spencer, weapons
your
and equipment,
swords, please. Well, Ezra is pretty straightforward. By the end of Rebels, he doesn't have his little wrist stun slingy guy anymore. He's basically just down to his green lightsaber.
Or his gun saber.
But he does have a saber and a gun. So he's got a green lightsaber and he's got a DL-44 heavy blaster pistol, which it's been a long time since I've seen Rebels, but I really don't think he uses that very much. I want to say
he does in fact keep the thing on him, and he does use it. I mean, if we really want to get cheeky, we can say he has his helmet.
Yeah,
his
he does
graffitied
have
scout trooper,
a myriad of Imperial disguises that somehow all fit him.
I love
he
that
is
helmet.
A little short for a stormtrooper.
I just love that he has that graffitied scout trooper helmet.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's dope.
It is legitimately cool, and I love it. So we can give him his helmet, a little extra protection.
All right. So he's
Cal,
got his helmet.
As far as weapons, even though he doesn't have it in the graphic, Cal, in terms of weapons and equipment, he has his saber staff, which is half Jaro Tapal's lightsaber and half Sir Junda's old lightsaber with a blue blade that can also come apart as 2 lightsabers. He can use it. He can take it apart and use 2 lightsabers. He can use it as a saber staff, or he can use it as a light pike. It's not, I take that back. He doesn't use it as a light pike. He uses it as a single bladed lightsaber with a very long hilt. He also has his BD adventure droid, BD1, which can dispense stims to him. However, I
thought
don't.
You were gonna say snacks. I was like, dude, I want an adventure droid.
I too want an adventure droid, not just for the snacks though. Realistically, I don't think that if Ezra scores a good hit on Cal's arm, that he can go, give me a stim, BD, and he can go and heal that up. I think it's going to be more like an adrenaline stem. I think it's going to help him not feel how much something hurt. But again, that's him being able to utilize that is going to rely very heavily on him being able to get around Ezra coming after him in a pitched battle. And he has his very slick scrapper uniform.
Indeed. Well, I really don't think that a blaster pistol will do much good against Cal, and Cal's got 2 blades instead of 1, which is usually the easy deciding factor.
You guys knew how this one shook out.
Yeah, so Cal gets it. This on paper is looking like a landslide.
Yeah, but we've had these fights where it's like on paper.
We have had these fights.
It's a fighter who has an edge by this much. Like it's that like if you get caught lacking for a second, your head gets cut off. Shit, where you have like you don't have the edge. Like no, you have a slight advantage on paper. We have tactics and mindset for Cal. The big thing for him is that he learns from every fight. Like I said, it took him several attempts at fighting the second sister before he could handily take her on, let alone beat her. But eventually he was able to do so. He is unfortunately a little hot-headed. The ninth sister was able to get him riled up. He dodged that bullet, but it's easy to do. However, I don't think Ezra would quite... I don't know if Ezra is telepathically gifted enough to like be able to see Cal's past, and on top of that, be willing to like exploit that.
I want to say he's not.
I don't like.
He can talk to animals, but I don't remember a specific instance where he was like, I see your mind, you know.
Yeah. And again, like even if he could, I feel like an Ezra Bridger who is not too terribly long ago lost Kanan.
Where'd you go? I've never been up there this whole episode.
Has he not?
Nope.
No,
What?
he was never on screen.
Wow. This is your show, man.
I feel like an idiot.
Just because you are. I avenged you.
That didn't burn nearly as
That
hard
it
as
really
this.
did.
It didn't.
It
It
really
really
didn't.
didn't. I tried.
Mine was way better.
It was.
Thank you.
I'll
I'll be in the building all night
for the rest of this episode.
for another 15 minutes, probably. All right.
But yeah, no, like even if he could, I feel like it would be very out of character for Ezra, who has not too terribly long ago lost Kanan, to start running his mouth, making comments about Jarrah Tapal. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Tactics and mindset for Mr. Bridger.
Mr. Bridger, yes. So it's really hard to tell from Rebels scenes from film. If you were preparing for this fight, you were watching some film, it'd be really hard to tell what Ezra's preferred style would be, because it always seems like he's on his back foot. Like everybody that he fights, he's getting pushed backwards more and more. And it's like only a couple instances toward the end of the show whenever you see him confidently take part in a battle. And whenever he does, I saw a couple instances where he like opens up with a force push just to see if it lands. And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But speaking of, he does rely pretty heavily on the force in the middle of a battle. He kind of it's his go-to in a pinch. It's if he sees an opening, he takes it with a force push. His last fight with Rook seems to ring a bell with me, where he saw an opening, did a little force push, and then kind of like pushed him off a cliff. So somewhat unconventional at times, I guess. He fences pretty defensively until an opening occurs, and then he tries his best to press that advantage. But like I said, most of the examples that we have of Ezra Bridger in a fencing match in the show are him basically getting his butt kicked at one point or another. So it's hard to tell, like if he had his way, how he would fight. But it seems that he does fight pretty. I'd say it's about 50-50 between defensive and offensive. But whenever he's on the offensive, he is much more likely to employ his force abilities, like a push, or something like that. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think this is the clearest draw we've had. Cal does not have pre-game tape on Ezra.
Yeah.
He hasn't fought him
He
3
got no
times.
film.
But I don't think there's anything like strategically Ezra has over on Cal. With that, Spencer, it is time we choose an arena for these two to duke it out in.
It is time. So for the edges, we've got physical attributes goes to Cal, as well as martial arts, a slim edge to Cal for force ability, a decisive edge to Cal for weapons and equipment, and a draw for tactics and mindset. So we're going to pull up our list of potential arenas, and then we're going to have Siri pick a number from 1 to 7. Hey, Siri. Pick a random number between 1 and 7.
A random number between 1 and 7 is 2.
Well, this is a fairly neutral battleground.
Yeah.
It is the Mos Eisley streets, inspired by OG Battlefront 2.
Yes, indeed.
Got no one in these Mos Eisley streets.
He does not have anybody in these Mos Eisley streets, indeed. Man, the lineup we have for the rest of the year, looking at the rest of these arenas, is gonna be nasty.
It's gonna be because all of these there are really no neutral arenas left.
No, there's not just a big room anymore.
Well, number 1 is the closest one, but there are obstacles. There are a couple obstacles.
There's a ledge and a Willy Wonka style cut you to ribbons spinny boy in there.
Yeah, that is a spinny boy.
If you're paying attention, you probably figured out what number 1 is.
Number 1 wants to talk to you. So, Cal and Ezra get dropped in the streets of Mos Eisley.
In these streets.
Who takes the offensive? Who goes on the offensive first?
I think Cal will. I don't think he's gonna run. I don't think he's gonna like Leroy Jenkins offensive, but I think he's gonna start trying to poke and prod, probably with one blade.
I think I see him looking at Ezra and saying, "You're not nearly as scary as the people I've fought before." So he's gonna run pretty headlong into it at first. They're gonna lock blades. I think you're right. Yeah, he's gonna open this fight as they often do, actually. Like most of the saber wielding contenders that we've covered on this show would likely open up with one blade just to get a sense of, is a second blade necessary? Can I surprise you later? And I haven't played the game, but it seems like something that like if Cal has got that many options for, it's under control. If Cal has got
bold, you are a bold one.
If Cal has got that many options for saber stuff, then he's gonna open with no surprises.
It's logical to start there, and I also feel like, again, a lot of the cutscenes, like they really only depict him like turning one on, going into a fight. Now there are some that like, by the time that the game knows you have a saber staff, that he will just both sides of it. But I think he's leading him with one blade, and I think that the biggest advantage Cal has is that he can surprise Ezra.
I agree.
Not that like it is a lethal surprise necessarily, but being in pitched battle and then a second blade coming into play is gonna go, oh no, oh shit, okay.
Yeah.
Ezra's
going to
the
need
nature
to
of
take
the fight
a
changed.
step back. Now, most of the time when Inquisitors use their buzzsaws, it's to create distance. It's to like back you up against a wall. You've got nowhere to go. The good news for Ezra when Cal kicks on that second blade is that they are not going to be coming at him nearly as fast and as repeatedly as a buzzsaw saber would. Like, he's going to have time to like watch each one coming in compared to like, like just getting hammered one after another as these sabers, they just keep spinning around and getting you.
The thing he does have to deal with is the fact that Cal uses a lightsaber
from the same direction too.
But like also Cal, the Echo of Jaro Tapal thing leads Cal swinging a lightsaber with in a more refined manner, kind of like a Savage Opress. That there's a little bit of that like heavy-handed saber staff combat, and that's going to be new for Ezra.
Yeah,
like again, like Cal's going to be a little bit more trying to fight speed-wise. Like, you know, one of the animations is him doing that like Darth Maul, like ooh, ooh, like, you know, like I'm going to go front then back, and you need to be ready to be able to like parry both front and back within the span of a second.
Yeah, that's. Like I said, the advantage for
Ezra, it's still pretty heavy-handed regardless of the speed.
The advantage for Ezra is that because it's human strength making that blade go and it's not a buzzsaw, then they aren't going to be coming at him as quickly, but they are going to be coming at him from more than one direction. Like with the buzzsaw, it's like, I'm going to hit you 1,000 times a minute in the same spot, and it's either going to wear you down or you're just going to stand there. Whereas with Cal, it's like left, right, up top, down below. Like, you're going to need to be on your toes. That's the bad news for Ezra.
And the other thing with like most of the time that buzzsaw saber is, most of the time it's been used against him. It's that, okay, give me room type thing, where here, like, the objective is not for Cal to like make you go away from him. It's so that he can just rapidly hit you from two vectors very quickly. And I think that it is in a different practiced use of the saber staff that we'll get to Ezra. Follow that up with the fact that at any minute it turns into dual wielding.
Yeah.
If he wanted it to.
Now, at that point,
I will
Ezra
say,
panics. He's going to throw a force push. It's going to land, but it'll do just as much good. You know, he'll throw one right back.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, oh, you got tricks? I got tricks.
Yeah.
And
now here's where Ezra doesn't have anything to worry about, really. Again, in the way that technique is utilized by Cal in the game, Cal is not a dual blade fencer. He has like 2 or 3 moves he can do with 2 blades, but he's no Ventress who is a practiced hand at, you know, fencing with 2 swords at the same time. He will do one big like room clearing strike and then put it back together as a staff. So Ezra only needs to be able to be prepared to like block one big like I'm attacking from both sides attack, which isn't dissimilar to the buzzsaw shit.
Yeah.
So I think eventually, I think you're right that he hits him with a force push, and at that point I think Ezra sees that as an open opportunity. And I think that gives Cal kind of like enough room that he can let off a force slow. and probably land a disabling strike. Probably not a killing blow. I doubt Cal is going to just like run Ezra through the heart and end it there. Like we said, we don't do the death battle rules of it is a fight to the death. It is a fight to whomever cannot fight anymore. And I think it is more likely for Cal to disarm or disable Ezra rather than it would be for him to kill him. But I think
that you're most likely correct on that one. And it won't take killing blow, I don't think.
No.
I don't think it will.
On either end.
No.
What are you giggling at?
We're talking to you.
What are you giggling at? You're just ear to ear right now, buddy.
I gotta reconnect to the other headphone stuff. Hi, are we on air still?
Yes.
Hi. I was watching YouTube
Okay.
on my phone because these episodes usually take a while.
They do.
I was watching GMM, Good Mythical Morning, outtakes and funny moments, specifically the episode on YouTube regarding Link being an absolutely clueless 99% of the time. And
sounds like somebody I know.
I found it very entertaining, and that's why I was smiling and laughing to myself.
If you think it's about you, maybe it is about you. But then again, you piece together it might be about you, which therefore means you're not clueless.
That's a great point. That's a great point. It's not me.
It's Schrodinger's dipshit. It could be you. It could be you at any given time.
Wow.
That's what I'm going to get you guys for Christmas. Matching shirts that say Schrodinger's dipshit. Anyway, I think you're right that a situation where Ezra gets off a force push, Cal takes a tumble, but Ezra has, at that point, given Cal enough breathing room to...
going to take a leaping strike.
Yeah.
Because
he's going to hit that middle ability.
He's big on the leaps.
He's big on he got hops. But no, I think eventually this ends probably with Ezra accidentally giving Cal a little bit more room to be able to let off a force slow, and then Cal being able to hit him with a force slow, take away his sword, or
lose an arm,
wound him in some way. But again, it's a narrow win. There's not a whole lot of room here for Cal to give ground.
Yeah. Again, we're talking about two characters that never had formal temple. Well, Cal did, but
we just reached the verdict
finished.
At 1138.
Wow. You can't make this stuff up.
We know we're right on this one.
Technically, it's 23.
Suck
1138
slice of noodles.
23.
Disgusting booty hole.
Listen, the only people that care about military time are doctors and military people, and you have the unfortunate case of being probably both.
Yeah.
I keep my watch and my phone on military time just because there have been too many times where I set an alarm for 8 o'clock
and it's 8 p.m.
and I sleep until noon and my alarm goes off after dinner.
Yeah, been there, done that.
It'd be like that sometimes.
It do be like that.
But I think Cal's is our victor.
Cal's got it.
He is on
Ezra.
side of the bracket for the end of the year. And Ezra, you are surrounded by amazing fighters on the other end. And I hope you make it to round 2, buddy.
I do.
It's okay. We're padding out this roster with people who aren't gods. We very quickly realized most of this bracket was people who were going to be really hard to pit against each other for the tournament. So there's going to be some there's going to be people who aren't legendary Jedi killers.
Some tweeners. some in-betweeners.
There's speaking of people who definitely are legendary Force gods. Yes, you.
Thank you.
Would you like to announce our next matchup for next month?
This is the one for July, right?
Yes.
The big one. The one that we said we need to do this in the summer when we have time.
Yes.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the matchup for July Season 2 will be what I am calling the Battle of Blurry Lights. Yoda versus Darth Treya. We right about that? Blurry lights.
Yeah.
Just multiple
I was gonna
sabers
say, we're gonna get
moving
the
faster
Weeknd.
than the eye can see.
We're gonna get the Weeknd in, and during the whole show, he's gonna be blinded by the lights. Yeah, Darth Treya versus Grandmaster Yoda. Two very, very particular fighters who are going to be interesting to write up character sheets for, which is part of the fun. That's absolutely part of the this character has a stacked repertoire, so we're going to make a character sheet early so we can refer back to it when we use them down the road.
Oh, yeah.
I think, how many characters are we reusing from last season? Off the dome, I think we only reused 2 for this season.
That sounds right.
Because we used the Grand Inquisitor.
Yeah, we reused a lot of people toward the beginning of the season when I was still at school.
Yeah. I
And
think
just-
it was only Grand Inquisitor was the only one we recycled. And then we have
Another one.
who we're using in December.
Well, yeah. I think I want to say those are the only 2.
Yeah.
Off the dome, as you say.
But with that, thank you all so very much for watching and listening. In the event this ends up in the main feed, Spencer, where can the lovely people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at SpenceMan Cosplay and on Twitter at SpenceMan49. Jared,
Yeah.
where?
Look at you doing Travis's thing. You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at DarkJedi2552. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on our website, www.thenerdacademypodcast.com, where if you're feeling generous, you can donate to our Patreon page. Speaking of our patrons, thank you to our $10 alumnus, Case and Brion, the Waffle Wizard, Delta 9, and Zach Knaus. You guys help us make the content that we love to produce. Be sure to consider the $5 tier, where if you're not hearing this on Patreon and you're hearing this in our main feed, however long from when we've recorded this is, consider the $5 tier, where you get monthly episodes of the Knights of the Nerd Republic Versus series, Heroic History 101, and the audio commentary tie-ins for Nerd Academy Movie Club. Check out the student store link on our website to get access to all manner of Nerd Academy merch and goodies. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, do all the things. We look forward to seeing you in the fighting pit again next month. And we don't have pants on.